A woman stared at her grocery cart filled with expensive organic meats and protein powders. 8 months of rotating through food diets, keto, paleo, low carb, and her body still wasn't cooperating. She was tracking macros, meal prepping, following what experts called healthy foods to eat every day, but the afternoon crashes kept coming. The bloating never left, and the weight kept creeping up. For many women over 40, this frustration isn't recognized for what it really is. Your body responding differently to food diets designed for younger metabolisms. But here's the thing. If you discover the different types of plant-based diets, approaches that work with your hormones instead of against them, everything changes. If this resonates, stay with me because in this video, I'll share 7 proven plant-based food diets women 40 plus are using to restore their energy and break the frustration cycle, especially if what you've tried so far hasn't worked. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Gayla Gorman, a licensed acupuncturist, naturopath, and author of What's Your Kryptonite? If you'd like to connect with me, use the QR code on the screen or go to drgayla.com/links. On this channel, I'm here to help you reverse the effects of chronic stress so that you can cruise through midlife and beyond symptom-free. So when comparing different food diets, the Mediterranean diet stands out as one of the most researched and health promoting. According to Harvard Health, it emphasizes plant-based foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and healthy fats like olive oil. Moderate amounts of fish and poultry are typically included, but red meat, sweets, and dairy are eaten in very small portions. Decades of evidence show this pattern lowers the risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and even cognitive decline while supporting long-term vitality. Who's it best for? Well, it's best for people that are wanting to optimize overall health, heart, brain, and gut health, maybe dealing with diabetes or high cholesterol, high blood pressure, inflammation, and just something that you can adhere to long-term without really having to make major adjustments in your life. Is this Mediterranean diet focusing on plant-based foods safe for your age and health conditions? Well, I can say that it's pretty much good regardless of your age or health condition. It's going to reduce cardiovascular disease risk, support brain health, and help manage menopause symptoms. Research shows women following this diet have 80% lower odds of experiencing moderate to severe hot flashes. You might be wondering, will I get enough protein and calcium on the Mediterranean diet? I can say that the answer to this question is also yes, if you are balancing your meals. Legumes, chickpeas, lentils, nuts and seeds, these all provide protein and fiber. If you add a little Greek yogurt, cheese, or other fortified plant-based milks for calcium and vitamin D that are essential for bone density after 40, you can really build yourself a diet that will help to optimize health long term. You might also be wondering, can I realistically stick with the Mediterranean diet given my lifestyle, schedule, and appetite changes? This is an absolute yes. This is the most flexible and honestly enjoyable diet. It's maybe not even really a diet at all. It's not super restrictive. You can also start small. Try one Mediterranean meal weekly or swap butter for olive oil. This gradual approach makes it sustainable long-term for a healthy life. The next, arguably most extreme plant-based diet is the vegan diet. A vegan diet, as one of the most restrictive types of plant-based eating, or honestly any type of eating diet, this can be very effective when based on healthy foods to eat every day. This would need to include beans, lentils, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. Harvard Health notes that vegan diets may lower the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes because it's excluding all animal products. Supplementation for vitamin B12, vitamin D, and sometimes even iron and omega-3s is usually necessary. I will say that I recommend that you get somewhere between 20 to 30 grams of protein in 2 meals a day if you're a mature woman. And that can be really challenging if you're eating a plant-based diet. So that's something that if this is the kind of diet that really resonates with you, you're going to need to figure out how you're going to get that 20 plus grams of protein in a couple of meals a day. It's best for people that are just plant-based eaters, either for ethical or environmental reasons. People seeking higher fiber intake and lowering chronic disease risk. I know for myself, I just could live on a salad every day. So for me, it would be fairly easy to eat plant-based, but I have issues when I don't consume enough protein, and I can't really load up on beans and nuts without having digestive issues. So these are all some considerations that you need to think through if you're going to adopt this diet long term. Is the vegan diet focusing on plant-based foods safe for your age and health conditions? It can be, absolutely, when done intentionally. You need to properly supplement with B12. I don't typically recommend taking any supplements long term, but if you are using a diet that's naturally deficient in nutrients, then you may need to supplement consistently. And so that can include B12, vitamin D, calcium, and omega-3s. Veganism is safe at all ages and can really reduce heart disease by up to 80%. Harvard confirms this. It's protective for women over 40. You might be asking, will I get enough protein and calcium on the vegan diet? Yes, it's possible, but you have to be strategic. Legumes, grains, nuts, and seeds definitely provide protein. For calcium, you need to focus on fortified plant milks, aiming for 1,200 milligrams a day. Tofu, tahini, and leafy greens also help to support your calcium requirement. Supplement vitamin D to ensure that you're getting proper absorption. I will caution you, if you think you're going to eat enough legumes to meet this 20 to 30 grams of protein requirement, you should definitely check to see how protein dense your legume of choice is. For example, a cup of lentils is about 18 grams of protein. So that's really not going to meet the overall requirements. You're going to need more than that. So you're going to need to get creative here. You might also be asking, can you realistically stick with the vegan diet given your lifestyle, schedule, and even appetite changes? I will say that my husband's been a strict vegan for years now. He did it for heart and inflammation purposes. For him, it hasn't been that difficult because he really doesn't need a lot of variety in his meals. He eats vegetable soup with legumes pretty much every day and eats a lot of tofu. He still honestly does not get enough protein, but he's been able to stick with it because he really doesn't need a lot of variety. I will say that if you are someone that needs more variety, then you probably are going to need to get a little more creative, maybe lean into more of the Mediterranean diet where you can incorporate fish and those sorts of things to just help you get creative with how you're going to get that 20 to 30 grams of protein. You need to start gradually if you're going to lean into this plant-based diet. Try one plant-based meal a week maybe and increase at your pace. If you find things that are truly 100% vegan and you like it and it meets the overall requirements, 20 to 30 grams of protein, that sort of thing, then you can see how you can do that more days during the week and eventually go 100% vegan if that's what you feel called to do. You really want to prevent overwhelm and find recipes you love, making the transition feel sustainable rather than restrictive. If the diet feels too stressful, it's going to sabotage your efforts. A vegetarian diet is something many people choose because of why the diet matters. It provides significant health benefits while being more flexible than veganism. It excludes meat, including poultry and seafood, but often includes dairy or eggs. It's referred to as lacto-ovo. Harvard Health reports vegetarians have a lower risk of coronary heart disease, diabetes, and obesity, while also benefiting from higher fiber intake and lower saturated fat levels. I will say that what I have found with vegetarians is that they consume too much dairy, and that sabotages their efforts for a number of reasons. So if you are going to adopt a vegetarian diet, you want to really make sure that you're not counting on dairy to get your protein and fat requirements met. Who's this diet best for? Well, it's really great for those wanting a plant-forward diet without going fully vegan, and for people with ethical concerns about meat. You might be asking, is this vegetarian diet focusing on plant-based foods safe for my age and health conditions? Well, I will say that research shows vegetarians have a 25% lower risk of heart disease and lower blood pressure. So the answer definitely is yes. You can use dairy sparingly and eggs to help cover nutrients after 40, but you're still going to need to monitor B12 and your protein intake. Another question you might ask is, will you get enough protein and calcium on the vegetarian diet? Well, you can get enough protein and calcium on this vegetarian diet. You are going to need to use some dairy, eggs, legumes, and whole grains to make sure you're getting enough protein and calcium. You're going to want to add fortified foods or take a B12 supplement to make sure you're covered. The flexibility of this diet makes meeting nutrient needs pretty straightforward. Another question you might be asking is, can you realistically stick with the vegetarian diet given your lifestyle, schedule, and appetite changes? Yes, I think that you can stick with it. I've seen people who have been vegetarian for years. You're not completely eliminating dairy or eggs, and the vegetarian diet is otherwise pretty flexible, and that makes it sustainable. You have more food options than stricter diets, making it easier to maintain long-term while navigating life's changes. The next general category of plant-based diets is the Flexitarian diet. A Flexitarian diet is a mostly plant-based approach that allows for occasional meat or fish. Harvard Health describes it as a semi-vegetarian option that reduces reliance on animal foods without complete elimination. It encourages whole grains, legumes, vegetables, fruits, and nuts while using meat in small portions. This balance can help reduce chronic disease risk while making the diet more sustainable long-term. Who's it best for? Mostly people transitioning toward vegetarianism would be turning to this type of diet, or maybe those who are leaning toward vegetarianism, but they're in reality about the nutrient requirements and need more flexibility. They also may have families with mixed dietary needs, making it nearly impossible to eat in a ecosystem with a lot of different needs trying to be met. So is the Flexitarian diet focusing on plant-based foods safe for your age and health conditions? I think that if you're considering a plant-based diet of some sort, This is one of the least restrictive and really is going to be generally well tolerated regardless of your age and health conditions. So yes, it's generally safe across age groups and health conditions. Another question, same type of question you're going to get with any plant-based diet is, will I get enough protein and calcium with this flexitarian diet? The flexibility to include dairy and eggs and occasional meat definitely helps. It ensures that you get plenty of protein and calcium. I will say that one egg is 6 to 7 grams of protein. So you can see that you're going to need 3 eggs to get to that 20 plus grams of protein. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking through, what am I really going to need to incorporate into this meal to make sure it's going to meet the protein requirements. Plant foods allow you to add legumes, nuts and seeds, plus you're going to get iron and B12 from some of the animal sources that you're still consuming. Next, you might ask, can I realistically stick with the flexitarian diet given my lifestyle schedule and appetite changes? I would say yes, definitely. This one is adaptable. It makes it easier to maintain than stricter diets like the vegan diet or true vegetarian diet. Consuming animal products to some degree is going to help prevent feelings of deprivation, and that's important with any kind of diet, because the more deprived you feel, the higher the risk that you're going to give up on the diet before you really get all the benefits that it promises. Next is the anti-inflammatory diet. This way of eating focuses on reducing chronic inflammation by emphasizing plant-based foods, whole grains, nuts, olive oil, and omega-3 rich fish. Harvard Health highlights the overlap with the Mediterranean-style diets, which have proven benefits for joint health, cardiovascular function, and immune strength. This diet is best for people with arthritis, chronic inflammation, or other immune concerns. You might be wondering, is this anti-inflammatory diet focusing on plant-based foods safe for my age and health conditions? I would say that if you have been considering the Mediterranean diet, this is going to be very close to that, and it's pretty much eaten for a lifetime in the Mediterranean, so it's definitely going to be approved for any age and health condition, but it's especially beneficial for older adults or those with inflammatory conditions. Another question that you need to be asking is, will I get enough protein and calcium on the anti-inflammatory diet? So since the focus is on whole foods and you can eat fish and legumes, it's going to cover most nutrients, although vitamin D may still require supplementation. Personally, I recommend you get out in the sunshine for 15 or 20 minutes in the morning, and supplementing with vitamin D will not be necessary. The sun is the best way to get your vitamin D. Another important question to ask is, can I realistically stick with the anti-inflammatory diet given my lifestyle, schedule, and appetite changes? So, since it's so similar to the Mediterranean eating style, it's pretty practical, especially if you already enjoy eating fruits, vegetables, and fish. You're going to be eating a lot of fish with this diet, and honestly, that is one of the absolute best sources of protein. So this is a really healthy diet if it feels like it resonates with you. The next plant-based diet we're going to talk about is the raw food diet. The diet focuses on uncooked, unprocessed foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and sprouted grains. Harvard Health acknowledges it can increase intake of whole foods, but warns that it's difficult to sustain and may lack essential nutrients over time, particularly protein, calcium, and vitamin B12. I will also say that from an Oriental medicine perspective, we would really discourage you going with a 100% raw food diet. You can certainly eat salads regularly. I definitely do. But it's healthier and easier on your digestion when you consume foods that are cooked. It makes it much easier for your system to assimilate them. Who's this diet best for? If this is really something that resonates with you, it would really be those preferring high fruit and vegetable intake. Be careful with the fruit because you're essentially consuming sugar, even though it's a natural sugar, and that you really just resonate with minimal processing for your foods. I will say that if you use healthy ways to cook your food, that cooking your food, even just lightly steaming vegetables, that sort of thing, can be easier on your digestion than eating 100% raw foods. So you might be wondering, is this raw diet focusing on plant-based foods safe for my age and health conditions? As I mentioned, not always. It can be really unsuitable for older adults, people with digestive issues, because it really lacks the benefit of cooking that helps to break down things prior to relying 100% on your digestion. And when your digestive system is tasked with breaking everything down, it can really make nutrients harder to absorb. Next question, will I get enough protein and calcium on the raw diet? Well, I would say definitely no. You could, I suppose, eat raw fish or raw meats, but those are definitely consumed with a lot of risk for ingesting all kinds of bacteria and parasites. You really don't want to be consuming raw meats. While fiber is abundant in this diet, protein, calcium, vitamin B12, and vitamin D are often sorely lacking. Supplementation will be essential if you really decide this is the diet that you want to pursue. And next, can you realistically stick with the raw diet given your lifestyle, schedule, and appetite changes? Well, honestly, I don't believe this is sustainable long term. It's definitely challenging, and you may find that within a few months, certainly a year, you would be seeing significant issues with your health that would potentially require a complete about face and a period of healing. So the restrictive nature and meal preparation demands really make long-term adherence to this diet difficult, especially when appetite and digestion change after 40. The next diet is the MIND diet, and this one's kind of interesting. This diet merges the Mediterranean diet and DASH diets with added focus on brain-supporting foods like leafy greens, berries, nuts, beans, whole grains, olive oil, and fish. The research by Harvard Health shows this approach may reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. Definitely something that as we age, we want to protect against. So it's best for people who are concerned about brain health, memory support, dementia prevention. If the MIND diet focuses on plant-based foods, is it safe for your age and health conditions? I would say yes, it's really a plant-forward diet, but it's a balanced plan, primarily with just a modification of the Mediterranean diet. It's going to be safe for pretty much all age groups and health conditions, especially beneficial for brain health and cognitive function over 40. Next, will you get enough protein and calcium on the MIND diet? Well, since it includes fish, whole grains, nuts, and legumes for protein, plus you can also add in some dairy and fortified foods for calcium, you should get all the nutrients you need with this diet. Can you realistically stick with the MIND diet given your lifestyle, schedule, and appetite changes? I would say yes, because it adapts a familiar Mediterranean eating style and pattern. It's practical and sustainable long term. So now that we've seen why plant-based diets like the Mediterranean diet are effective and straightforward to follow, it's important to look closely at the foods that make them so beneficial. Plant-based eating is built on everyday staples like beans, lentils, fresh vegetables, whole grains, and fruits, all of which supply the core nutrition the body needs for heart health, weight management, and sustained energy. With the right approach, these foods can cover nearly every essential nutrient, while smart strategies like incorporating fortified foods and supplements can ensure adequate protein consumption, maintaining optimal vitamin B12 levels, and calcium without relying on animal products. So if you're ready to explore practical ways to incorporate more plant-based meals into your weekly routine, you'll find step-by-step guidance in one of my other videos, the 10 plant-based fat-burning superfoods. The link should pop up right here on your screen, and if you miss it, no worries, I've included it in the description below. So what healthy foods should you eat every day leaning into the plant-based diet? If we're starting with the Mediterranean diet, arguably the most evidence-backed food diet, the pattern is built on foods people enjoy daily in Mediterranean countries. This includes vegetables, including tomatoes, peppers, leafy greens, fruits, oranges, grapes, figs, whole grains, brown rice, barley, oats, legumes, chickpeas, lentils, beans, nuts and seeds, and olive oil as the main fat. Protein consumption includes fish, poultry, and dairy with limited red meat. It's also important to note that limiting sweets is important on this diet. Next is the vegan diet, and healthy foods to eat every day would include pretty much any vegetable, broccoli, kale, spinach, fruits, bananas, berries, apples, whole grains, quinoa, brown rice, oats, legumes, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, seeds, and plant oils. These foods provide fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants. Because all animal products are eliminated, fortified plant milks and B12 supplements are often added to cover nutrient gaps. The next one is the vegetarian diet, and this is primarily plant foods every day like vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, while often including a little bit of dairy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, and even some eggs. This combination makes it easier to meet protein and calcium needs than a strict vegan diet while reducing reliance on meat. Flexitarian focuses mostly on plant-based foods like vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, but allows for occasional servings of meat, poultry, or fish. This balance helps people shift toward plant-forward eating while still enjoying favorite animal-based foods in moderation. The anti-inflammatory diet highlights foods to eat every day, including leafy greens, berries, cruciferous vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, nuts, and fatty fish like salmon or sardines even. These foods are rich in antioxidants, omega-3s, and fiber, which support joint, heart, and immune health. The raw food diet relies on uncooked foods like fresh fruits, raw vegetables, sprouted grains, soaked nuts, and seeds. Some followers also include raw dairy or raw fish, but the majority of meals are based on plant-based foods in their natural state. The Mind diet combines Mediterranean and DASH eating, but highlights brain-supporting foods, leafy greens, spinach, kale, berries, blueberries, strawberries, nuts, beans, whole grains, olive oil, and fish. Limited amounts of poultry and wine even are also included, but red meat, butter, cheese, and sweets are minimized. These diets generally are going to help you sharpen your focus, reduce inflammation, and honestly just glow from the inside out. Fat accumulation is one of the countless ways stress creates symptoms and other health issues, especially during midlife. I created a video that shows you how to eliminate symptoms naturally, so I'll make sure to link to it below this video, but make sure you hit subscribe too, because I share a lot of tips when it comes to dealing with stress that's become toxic. Relieving the nasty symptoms stress creates makes cruising through midlife a breeze. And remember, if you'd like to connect with me, just scan the QR code on the screen or go to drgala.com/links. You've just seen how plant-based food diets bring together tasty, everyday foods and major health benefits. But it gets even more powerful when you look at how these diets boost long-term wellness, disease prevention, and even support the planet. Let's get into the reasons why going plant-based isn't about restriction. It's about stepping into a lifestyle built for energy, variety, and lifelong sustainability. So you may have noticed there's a lot of overlap with these diets, especially when you look at the hardcore vegetarian and vegan diets. You know, they're all based on consuming a lot of fruits and vegetables. The only real difference is the sources of protein. Plant-based diets aren't about restriction. They're about building your meals around whole, nutrient-rich foods that support long-term health. Harvard Health highlights that shifting to plant-forward eating is one of the most effective ways to improve overall well-being and reduce chronic disease risks. Plant-based diets help lower the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and even some cancers. They reduce inflammation, support brain health, and can improve longevity. Harvard also points out that these benefits are backed by decades of evidence from Mediterranean and vegetarian diets, showing real protection across diverse populations. The nutrient-rich everyday foods include vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. They provide fiber, antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals that strengthen the immune system, protect against cell damage, and support healthy digestion. These are foods you can include every day without complicated planning, making the diet both practical and effective. Plant-based eating isn't one size fits all. Options like the Mediterranean, vegetarian, vegan, or flexitarian diets allow you to choose the approach that fits your age, health conditions, and lifestyle. Again, as Harvard notes, vegans may need a vitamin B12 supplement, but otherwise, these diets are flexible and sustainable, supporting both personal health and planetary health by reducing reliance on resource-heavy animal farming. Remember those 3 failed diets I mentioned at the beginning? Keto, paleo, and low carb? The ones that left you more frustrated than when you started? That's what happens when you follow restrictive food diets designed for a younger body instead of understanding how plant-based eating can work with your changing hormones and metabolism after 40. So now you have the 7 proven types of plant-based diets to choose from: Mediterranean, vegan, vegetarian, flexitarian, anti-inflammatory, raw food, and the mind. And more importantly, you know the exact questions to ask yourself so you can find the approach that fits your age, health conditions, and lifestyle without feeling deprived. And if your best efforts to live a healthy lifestyle and do all the things you've been led to think are supposed to work aren't getting the job done, you may even be feeling like you take 2 steps forward and 3 back. I have more resources to help you navigate midlife. Just go to drgala.com/links and watch my next video where I show you how to manage the toxic stress that's sabotaging your efforts. You can eliminate the symptoms that seem to be piling up in midlife naturally without medication, crazy diets, intense exercise, or any other unsustainable lifestyle hack.